Thank you, everybody, for joining, and welcome to the January 2024 Radius Community Call. My name is Will Tai. I am from the Radius Maintainership team, and I'll be your host today. We have a pretty packed agenda today, and I'm excited about all the demos that folks from the community will be showing. And we'll also talk a little bit about the version 28 and 29 releases and some of the latest happenings with Radius as well. So first things first, welcome everybody to the call, and just like to remind everyone that this call is for you, for the community, for you to see the latest demos and get updates on features that are upcoming, ask questions and share some feedback. So we welcome that. So please do that and make sure you use the chat to engage with us and ask any questions. And you can also raise your hand, and then we will unmute your mic, and you can hop on and speak and provide your input vocally as well if you choose. And here's just a reminder that we also have a Google group email update, so you can go and click on this link. It should be clickable for you on the Teams interface. So join the Google group to receive any email updates going forward about Radius. Typically, we send release notes to email through this email list, so that might be a useful way to stay updated on Radius. All right, and because we didn't have a community meeting during December because of the holidays, we're gonna just kind of munge both the two newest releases and talk about them together in the January meeting today. So version 0.28 and version 0.29 were released in December and January respectively. And we're very excited to have these newest features and functionality released as a part of these releases. Specifically, we now have a new dev container for contributing to the RAD CLI, which we'll get a demo of today. And Christian from the community contributed to this. And what this brings you is a local dev container in GitHub Codespaces in seconds. So it's preloaded with everything you need to begin developing the Radius CLI and also other Radius services. So helps you get started with your environment, your development environment faster. The next thing is we now have the ability to run Radius behind a custom firewall. This was implemented because we got plenty of feedback from enterprise users that need Radius to support custom certificates to allow Radius to operate behind corporate or custom firewalls, especially in enterprise scenarios. So you can click on the link over here that will take you to the documentation on the Radius doc site, and you can go there and find out more information on how to use this feature. The Edge version of the RAD CLI is now available, which means you can try out the latest cutting-edge RAD CLI capabilities and new features that aren't quite yet released into the production or the released CLI. So you can download and specifically install the Edge version of the RAD CLI built from the main branch. So visit the link over here to see the documentation on how to download and install the Edge version of the RAD CLI. And of course, if you're using it and you find any issues, we especially want to hear about them so that we can get them fixed before we release the CLI into the main version. And then lastly, we introduced a new test experience when contributing to Radius. I'm sure a lot of you are, when you're contributing code, you want to know that your code is fully tested, right? So our new testing experience makes it easy to fork your PR, and make your first commit. Radius now leverages GitHub environments and integrated status checks to make sure that community contributions are good to go and get tested. So all you need to do is set your PR, and our testing infrastructure will do all the work to run the tests and make sure everything is working without you having to do additional work. So that's very, very, very powerful for helping you get started and contributing more quickly on Radius. So with that being said, this is the full changelog for version 0.28. You can click on the link over here to see the full changelog in the release notes, and then the full changelog for version 0.29. All right, this is always the most exciting part for me, is being able to celebrate our new contributors. So we had 2 new contributors over the past period, the past 2 releases. And like I said, with the new testing infrastructure and the new dev containers that are now available, contributing has just become much easier. So we, of course, welcome new contributors all the time, and feel free to go into our repos, go to the issues, search for the Good First Issues tag. Those are great ways to find potential kind of first issues to get your feet wet and start contributing to Radius. All right, before we dive into demos, I also want to give a quick plug for our Radius roadmap. So we now have a Radius roadmap that has been published. The first link here is a link to the blog post, which will walk you through a few of the details of what's in the roadmap and give you kind of like a higher level view of all the things that the team is currently working on. And then the second link, the bookmark this link, is the actual link to the Radius roadmap within GitHub. We have a GitHub project that tracks all the roadmap items in a board. This slide might be, the screenshot here might be a little bit hard to read, but if you click on the link, you'll see the full extended version of the roadmap that you can interact with and look around. So encourage you to go into the roadmap and go comment on, go upvote anything that appeals to you especially, because the maintainership team reviews this roadmap on a monthly basis after each release to reassess sort of, are we working on the things that are most important for the community and for our users? And being able to go in and upvote and comment on the roadmap items that you care about actually is a very good signal for us to determine which ones are the important things that the community cares about. So we have a couple of swim lanes in the roadmap. We have proposed, which is for work items or ideas that have been proposed to the team and are under consideration. And these proposals, we, as the Radius maintainership group, we source them from various channels, right? We might grab them from the Discord, one of the rooms in Discord or one of the chats in Discord. We might source some ideas from there. We might source some ideas from new feature requests that are submitted as issues as a part of the Radius repo. Or that we might have some meetings with some of our users or feedback from other channels that we end up creating roadmap items out of. So bottom line, keep the feedback and the ideas flowing into all the appropriate channels, and then the maintainership team will take those ideas and funnel them into the Radius roadmap. The accepted swim lane is for items that have been accepted into the Radius roadmap. These are ideas that the Radius maintainership team has reviewed and taken a look at the demand and whether it's a good idea to bring it into the scope of Radius and its roadmap. So accepted means that they've done the diligence in reviewing the idea and vetting it with the community and accepting it into our backlog. Designing is work items that are currently being either researched or being designed. Those are items that were accepted, and we decided to start at least investigating or even working on them in design phase. Developing is things that move away from after they've designed. They're actively in development. And then the last swim lane is done. I didn't include the screenshot here due to kind of slide real estate reasons, but done is pretty self-explanatory, items that are complete and shipped as a part of a Radius release. So you can see the full swim lanes and all the items by going to the roadmap in this link. So please be sure to bookmark this link, and we'll include this link separately in the recording caption when we upload this to YouTube after our session. Great. So without further ado, let's jump into some demos. So first up, we have Shruti, who will demo Terraform submodules and version ranges. So Shruti, I will hand over the screen to you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen, and then just let me know if that doesn't show up or if there's any other issues. Okay, so this demo is going to be about Terraform submodules and version ranges when you're using Terraform recipes. So the demo is going to be loosely based off of the recipe tutorial that we have on our Radius docs page. The only difference is instead of using bicep recipes, we're going to be using Terraform recipes. So I have my Terraform recipe uploaded onto this Git repo. I'm not really going to be doing anything with this Git repo. It's just to kind of explain the structure of the recipe. So Terraform has something called a root module, and then they also have submodules. So my root module is going to be anything that's in my main working directory. So basically anything that's on this page. Obviously, I don't actually have a Terraform register or a Terraform recipe that's uploaded into this root module and this main working directory. I do, however, have my Terraform recipe uploaded into this nested Redis folder. So you can see I have my files for my recipe that are uploaded into this subfolder. So this Redis folder is what Terraform would consider a submodule. So I have all my Terraform files uploaded here. It's just not within my main working directory, so it's not technically considered a root module. So I'm going to go to the Terraform registry page where I have actually uploaded like the recipe that I'm going to use. So if I scroll down a little, you can see at the bottom it says this module version has no root configuration. Again, that's just because I didn't actually have any Terraform recipes or files that were uploaded onto that main working directory. It was all nested within a subfolder / a submodule. And then if I scroll back up, they do have a specific submodule page. And if I click on that, this is where my Terraform recipe got uploaded to into this submodule. And then I have all my like inputs, outputs, dependencies, and things like that that are uploaded onto this submodule page. And then the last thing on this page is the source path. So this is what you would reference as the template path when you're deploying your recipe. We can see that it's a submodule because of this / character. So Terraform uses the special / character to denote whether you're going to be using a submodule or just a regular root module. So the path to my root module is actually going to be this prefix before the /, and then everything after this / is going to denote that I'm going to be looking into a submodule, and my Terraform recipe is uploaded into like this Redis subfolder. So the only other thing to point out on this page is that I have different versions uploaded for this module. So I have 4 different versions, with version 3 being the latest. And I can reference any of these versions within my bicep template. And we'll get to version ranges within using these versions in the bicep template that we're going to deploy. So let me pull that template up really quick. So this is the bicep template that I'm going to be using. Again, this is very similar to the application template that is in our recipe tutorial. The only difference is that I have added an explicit environment resource onto this bicep template. And that's just because it's easier to see the recipe that I'm going to add to this environment. If you wanted to, you can use the rad CLI and do a rad recipe register for your Terraform template. Just for the purposes of the demo, I think it's easier to see the information associated with the recipe when it's laid out this way. So the first thing that we're going to look at on the recipe parameters is the template path. You can see that we specified the path to the submodule, not just to the root module. Again, we know it's a submodule based off of this special / character that Terraform uses. And then the other thing that we want to look at is the template version. So I think in most cases, we would be using something like 1.0.0 to specify an explicit version. Or if you didn't want to use a template version, you don't need to specify this parameter, and then Radius will just pull the latest version that was uploaded to my Terraform registry. In this case, it would just be 3.0.0. But if I wanted to use a version range, I can specify that as well. So the version range that I'm going to be using today is between 1 and 3, 1 inclusive. So if I go back to the registry page and I look at the 4 versions that I've uploaded, the latest version within that range is going to be 2.0.1. So that's going to be the version range or the version that I'm looking for when I deploy this recipe. So let me go ahead and deploy my template. And then while this is deploying, just a couple of things to note is that version ranges are only going to work for Terraform registries. So you have to have a Terraform registry if you want to use version ranges. Submodules, on the other hand, work for any module source. So in the beginning, I had my recipe uploaded to Git. If I just wanted to pull from Git instead of pulling from a Terraform registry, that would be okay as well. Okay, great. So this finished deploying. I'm going to go check the pod logs just to see information on the recipe that I have deployed. So I'm going to search for download explicitly and then filter that. And then you can see the first log, it says that it's downloading a Terraform module, and it's downloaded my submodule instead of anything that's at the root module. So my recipe is coming from this submodule. It's not uploaded into the root module on that registry. The other thing to note is the version that it's pulled from. So we can see that it's correctly pulled the latest version within the range that I specified. So the latest version on my registry is technically 3.0.0, but because I specified that range, it's only going to pull 2.0.1, which is the latest version within the range that I specified. Yeah, so that's kind of the end of the demo. Just a couple of other things to note is that Terraform does have information on how to denote submodules for all of the different module sources. Obviously, I only did Terraform registry today, but I would definitely check that page to see how you can use it for other module sources. And they also have information in their docs on version constraints and how to use versioning with registries and things like that. And so version ranges for Terraform work on the latest release for Radius, but submodules are going to be in the next release. So if you did want to work with submodules, just make sure you're using the Edge version of Radius because they won't work on, I think the .29 release is the last stable release. Yeah, are there any questions? And I will also check the chat after this just to answer any questions in there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shruti. This is great. And I'll reiterate a point that Ryan Nowak has made in the chat, that these features were actually gaps in Terraform recipes that were reported by users, and for obvious reasons, right? You need versioning and being able to specify versions in order to use recipes in a production workload, of course. So these are gaps reported by users and have since been filled. So very important to note that this demo would not have been possible in version 0.27. These are brand new features that were added as part of the previous releases. So very cool. Thank you for showing us, Shruti, and great job working on this feature. All right, let me pull up the deck so we can go through to the next agenda item. And we have another really cool demo. This is the dev container for CLI development, and very excited to introduce Christian, who was a first-time contributor in our past release and contributed to us in a big way. And we want to be able to see and celebrate the work he's done for the dev container for CLI development. So, Christian, why don't you take us away here?
Sure. Thanks for having me, and it was fun to contribute to Radius. So very open community. I can only recommend contributing. It's a pleasure. So let me shortly share the screen. Let me know if you can see something.
Yep, I can see your screen, and I want to put a shout out there that Christian is actually outside of, he's not from Microsoft, and is outside of the core kind of maintainership team. So this is a truly a community contribution here. So
yeah, so I'm definitely not working for Microsoft. No, I'm working for SAP. So definitely outside of that. I will always be looking in this direction here if you look at the face, because I have the second screen shared. So don't get confused. I'm not distracted. Now, having said that, as I'm a first-time contributor, well, I wanted to contribute, but to the Radius CLI project, and I thought it's quite some stuff to do in order to be able to contributing to Radius. And I thought it would be a good idea to make that a bit easier. So if you take a look at the docs and what you have to do in order to contribute to Radius, and if you want to do that locally, there is quite some stuff to install. So of course you have Visual Studio Code, you have a Golang extension, you have to install Go, Git, Node.js, Python, Golang CLint, JQ make, and so on and so forth. So the list continues and continues. And that's already quite some stuff to do. And well, I thought it would make sense to have that already pre-configured for you, making use of dev containers. So basically what you do is, and I guess most of you are familiar with that, you spin up a container that contains all the stuff that you need or that you want, and you mount your local source code into that container, and then you can work from that container. There are basically two flavors that are now supported by Radius. One is the local dev container that I will demo, and then I will also shortly show the code spaces that are also underpinned by the dev container configuration that we have. Now, in order to use the dev container locally, like I will demo, you have to have three prerequisites. So you have to have Visual Studio Code installed. That's all described here on that page. You have to have Docker installed in order to have the Docker container up and running. And you have to have one extension installed. That's a dev container extension, so that Visual Studio Code can interact with the container that's running on Docker. Now, how does it look like? How does the dev container know? What was basically the contribution that I made? So switching to Visual Studio Code, you see I have the dev container.json open. That's the configuration of the dev container, and that tells the dev container extension to what to do. So we have no Docker configuration there. I personally do not like to jump between different files if you want to spin up a container. So we have a base image, which is a Ubuntu image, and then we use the feature in order to get all the stuff into the container. And as you can see here, that is quite some stuff. So we have the GitHub CLI, we have the Git, and so on and so forth. That gets installed, ending with Dapper. That's kind of what gets pulled into the Docker image. And then we have some customization of the Visual Studio Code that gets spun up with respect to the extensions that are used. And there is also a little post create command. So when the container gets created for the first time, this command gets executed. Now, how does it look like? If you clone the GitHub repository locally and you open it up, usually you get a little pop-up on the right-hand side that tells you, hey, there is a dev container configuration. Do you want to spin up do you want to reopen the folder in a container? I had Visual Studio Code open a bit longer. So I can go to this little open a remote window symbol and then select from the command palette, reopen in container. As we only have one configuration, it automatically knows which configuration to pick. And then it will start the dev container. Will pick up the one that is already available on my machine. Doing some mounting, some networking thingies under the hood. And it will be done at some point in time. Yeah, and here we go. So I can close that one. So as you can see here, there's also some configuration going on around make, which I think is Windows specific hiccup there. You have all the files available now within the dev container. As you can see here on the lower left-hand side, it's a dev container called Radius Contributor with all the nice things that you want to have. So let's check that. I will open up a terminal. Resizing everything. So we have, for example, Python. So we have a Python version, we have Node, and in the latest long-term release version, and we have Pepper, just to name a few. So nothing up my sleeve. Everything is there within the system. Where I tricked a bit, because otherwise the demo would have taken the whole community hour, is if you install the container for the very first time, of course, the stuff that we have configured here or defined here has to be downloaded. And that takes on a Windows machine, so on my machine, which has a decent internet connection, between 7 and 9 minutes until everything is there. But this is a one-time effort. So this only happens one time when you install it or if you rebuild the container. But once that's done, everything is there, everything is in the container, no local footprint. So I think that's super helpful for starting with contributions. Now, having said that, I don't know where I made the pull request, but I also improved, or I think from my perspective, I improved the launch.json. So there is a lot of debugging configuration there, which was already there before I made my contribution. Now I made one additional one with respect to, I think makes life easier for really new contributors. And that's debugging the red CLI with prompting for the arguments. And I have a very, very short screen capture of that. So let's say you are in the dev container now, and you want to debug a very specific command because there is an issue open for that. And for the sake of the demo, we say, okay, we want to debug the version command. So what you can do now in the dev container, set a breakpoint, start the debug configuration, and choose the debug rad CLI and prompt for args. And now you start kick off the debug configuration. What it does, it picks up the command palette and asks you for the command to use. And we used version. And that's kind of, from my perspective, the easiest way to get started with debugging. Now, of course, it takes a bit until things are settled with respect to the building of the rad CLI, because of course you are not using any pre-configured stuff. So let me jump a bit. So now the debugger kicks in, and as you can see here, you had nothing to do than set a breakpoint, say which command you want to debug, and wait a bit, and you are good to go with respect to really digging into your first issue, debugging stuff, and getting started. So dev container, this configuration really makes your life easier. At least I hope so. Then, as Will already mentioned, there is, of course, the dev container, and you can use that for code spaces. So if you want to leverage code spaces, you can, of course, also open that up, which will then leverage the dev container configuration. And I think that the maintainers were so kind in order to pre-build the images. So you see here, pre-build is ready. So you will have no big delay with respect to the startup because the Docker image is already there and pre-built. That's kind of the stuff for the dev container. Now, one more thing. Maybe you don't want to contribute, but you want to use the Radius CLI, and you want to use dev containers because you want to have some configurations in there. You want that stuff within a container. And there is also one contribution, and that's based on this feature stuff that is available. So the Radius CLI is also available as a dev container feature. So if you want to craft your own container and copy and paste the contributor container, but you really want to drag in the Radius CLI, you can do that. There is also a feature available now, I think since the 28 release, if I'm not mistaken, that you can use in order to install the Radius CLI, be it the latest and greatest stable version or the Edge version. Both is possible. Now with that, that was everything I had to show and to demo. So dev container is there, debugging config is there, and the Radius CLI is there as a dev container feature. So I think that really makes life a lot easier. I don't see the chat, so if you have any questions there, I won't be able to see them, but yeah, I think there are enough here.
There is one question from Yetkin, who, so Yetkin said, this is great, it works for interactive commands too, right? I think he was referring to the prompt functionality you were showing.
To the prompt functionality, yeah. So I think every command that you can key in is working. There is also a second configuration that was already there for just spinning up the red CLI and then attaching to it. So that can also be used. But I think for getting started, I think this one is quite useful.
Awesome. Great. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So super cool. Thank you so much, Christian, for your contribution and for showing us all the good work you've done with the containers. Super excited that the community now has an additional tool in their tool belt to get started quickly on developing and contributing to Radius. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so while hopefully the slides come back up here in a minute. Here we go. Moving on to our next demo. And this is a demo that I will walk you through. We're very excited to be able to show you a prototype of the Radius dashboard. So without further ado, let me share my screen and jump right in. All right. So what I wanted to show you is our prototype of the Radius dashboard. So what I have here are two terminal windows these are the processes that are currently serving the Radius dashboard. So here it is. This is the Radius dashboard. So for those of you wondering what the Radius dashboard is, it's a new feature that we are hoping to bring into Radius in the upcoming release or two. And basically, it is a developer dashboard that helps you visualize a lot of the things and the resources and assets that Radius brings to your applications and your environments. So here we have the homepage. We have some basic information and resources on Radius, getting started, and the Discord and things like that. And then at the bottom here, we have two boxes that show the highest level kind of like resource groupings that you might have within your Radius kind of universe here. So we have applications and environments. So let's start by looking at environments, right? So we have the default environment, and you can actually go in here and take a look at all the details of that environment. So this is just a JSON dump of all the data pertaining to the particular environment. You can take a look at all the recipes available to you in that environment, and then take a look at all the resources that are a part of the environment. walk you through the applications as well. So in this environment, I have pre-deployed the Radius Getting Started app, the first app. And in it, you'd be able to see an overview, and then there's a details tab with the raw data of all the metadata for the application. And then resources, very similar to the environment's resources page, but this is scoped to the application. So these are all the resources that are within the application called First App. And then this tab here is the nifty one. So this is the app graph. Right now, it's a very simple graph because the first app, the Getting Started first app for Radius is a simple one. It only has a demo container and then a database connected to that demo container. So I'll show you a more complicated app here in a little bit, but just wanted to kind of give you a view into what the application graph is. And this is basically a visualization of the application graph data. So as you may know, when you define an application within Radius, you're able to specify connections between all the resources as a part of the that become part of the deployment. And because we have all this data, or because Radius has all the data that for your connections and resource specifications, there's actually a data structure, a nice graph data structure called the application graph that we can then take and do various things with. And of course, this visualization is one of the high value things we can do with this data. And then when you navigate here on the sides, you can actually see a listing of all the resources within your kind of Radius universe. And then you can also take a look at all the recipes by environment here. So in the default environment, we have all these recipes available for you to leverage. So the next thing I will do is I will show you a more complicated app. So what I did in putting together this like sample application was I went into the recipes and looked at what recipes were available for me to use to make a more complicated sample app for everyone to see. So with that, I actually went and created an app called Dashboard App, and I picked and choose a bunch of the resources that are made available to me via the recipes that I saw in the dashboard. And with that, this is the backend app that I defined. So we will go ahead and deploy that now. Rad deploy dashboard app.bicep. This will take a bit, but basically it's taking this app here and deploying it. And we should see momentarily here an application that consists of a backend front-end service with a database, state store, and message queue connected into the application. So should be completing here in a little bit. And while it's doing that, I will also do something else and kind of show you that the dashboard is actually live. Oh, actually, it just finished deploying. So you actually now see, in addition to First App, we have our dashboard app show up. And note here, we have 3 environments. So let's go ahead and create another environment. So rad m create, let's name it test. All right, successfully created the test environment. So if we go back and we do a refresh, you will see a test environment show up. There's nothing to show in this environment because it is, of course, just a test environment and completely empty, but just wanted to show you that the dashboard picks it up as soon as you deploy it. So let's take a look at the dashboard app that I just deployed. And here are the details. And then resources-wise, like I said, it's a more complicated application, so it has more resources associated with it. And this should be reflected in the application graph. And here it is. Let me zoom in. Right now, the Reactflow component allows you to zoom in with the scroll wheel of your mouse. and you can zoom in and kind of take a look at how everything's interconnected. So this is exactly how I had defined it in the bicep to deploy the application. We have a backend and front end that is connected via a gateway, and then we have an emailer service that basically takes messages from the message queue to process. And then the front end is backed by a UI cache, and then there's a state store that is attached to the backend. So this is a more complicated use case, and you can tell that I had just deployed this using the Radius Bicep app definition, and after deploying, it showed up on our dashboard. And like I said, it's live, so you can actually go in, and I can go and say rad app delete first dash app, and then it will ask me to confirm. I will say yes. Give it a few seconds. All right, it says deleted here. We go back to the dashboard and we refresh it. It's gone. So it's a live dashboard and basically a graphical UI of everything you need to know about Radius. And I will stop sharing now and turn it over to Ryan Nowak, who will walk us through the repo for the dashboard and kind of run through some of the technical stuff here.
Cool. And I realize we're kind of short. Oh no, I guess we've got another 15 minutes. So hey everybody, we're really excited to unveil the dashboard. This is something that a few of us worked on over the holidays, and we're kind of making some progress on this. And in the spirit of open source, we wanted to get this out there before it really feels done and complete. So it's in a state where we want you to try it. We want to get your feedback on if things are working well, if you think things are missing, and if you think, if you want to help out. We would love for folks to help out if you've got UI skills or sort of general JavaScript programming skills. So let me go ahead and bring that up, and let's talk about the repo and some of the ways that you could get started with this. So there's my chat, which always gets shared first. And so the dashboard is here in this Radius project dashboard repo. And it's a private repo, which isn't ideal. So why don't we just go ahead and fix that? So down here, I'm an admin on this, so I can do that. And we are going to actually make this public right now. So yes, I want to make this public. I'll type Radius project dashboard, make this public. I know I do not want to update my password. Okay, hold on a sec. I need to grab my password here. Password suggestion you're seeing is not my password, so feel free to write that down and try it because it's not my password. It's temporary unavailable, so this is getting upgraded right now from private to public, and hopefully this is now visible to folks to try it. So I'll talk a little bit about the architecture and some of the choices that we made with the dashboard. And the way that this is working is, you probably didn't know, unless you're a Backstage user, you might have seen some hints in the UI. The Radius dashboard is actually an instance of another great open source project called Backstage. The way that Backstage works is you're kind of supposed to create your own custom build of it, and that's actually what we've done for the Radius dashboard. We created an instance of Backstage. We kind of trimmed out some of the things that we're not using from Backstage, and we built a lot of our UI kind of on top of their framework. The really cool thing about that is that will enable us to publish this functionality as NPM packages, so that if you are a Backstage user, you can kind of just use it as part of your existing website. Our intention for the Radius dashboard is that this is useful for you to experiment with Radius, do some tutorials, and kind of play with it. And if you're in a bigger environment where you've got a team supporting a dev portal, we want Radius to be something you can easily integrate into your dev portal, and that's kind of why we went here. If you're doing something that isn't Backstage for your dashboard, I think Will would love to have a conversation with you and learn more. So kind of the way that this works and some of the things that are in the repo, I'll just give a really quick tour. The interesting code is here in packages and plugins, and I'm actually just going to jump to the docs to explain this because we have documentation and everything. So we have this code organization folder, and these two packages here, so packages app and packages backend, make up the actual dashboard that we're going to include with Radius. There's 3 other node packages here that we're going to publish to NPM. So the application graph display that Will showed you is going to get published to NPM as its own package, because we feel like that's useful enough that we're probably going to use it in a couple places. And then the Backstage plugins for Radius will also get published to NPM with their own their own packages. So look for some instructions pretty soon about how you could start using this as part of an existing Backstage install, because that's something we want people to be able to do. Will did a little bit of a community poll, and I think the response was that Backstage was of the dev portals that we could integrate with, Backstage was the one that had by far the most use. So that's kind of why we went there. If you want to get involved with this and you want to try this out, the best way for you to try this out literally right now is go to our repo and clone this repo. And there are instructions that you can find here through the contributing page that will tell you how to run this locally. So you can basically run in the setup that Will had. So for right now, the best way for you to try this is just to run it on your machine and kind of like you would if you were deving on it. We're hoping to get this into a Radius install for the V30 release, which will be our next release. We do releases on a roughly monthly cadence. So if you feel like waiting until it actually shows up in your installation, I think you're probably going to be waiting like 3 weeks at the most. Somebody remind me the actual schedule. Somebody will correct me in the chat, I'm sure. So that'll be showing up in Radius pretty soon in a way that you can use without having to build it from source. And what we're kind of thinking about that is there will be a command that you can run at the CLI to kind of launch it. It'll be installed as part of your Radius install, and then it'll talk to the Radius instance that's installed on your Kubernetes cluster. And so that's some of the ways that you can help. We would love for folks to get involved. In the repo, we've got a list of issues here that Will's created. There's some of the things that we were thinking about doing. We would love your feedback and your ideas about things that you think we should do, what would be useful to you. There's a couple things that are tagged here with good first issue, which feel like, hey, if you're pretty new to this, you could probably get started. And if you want to help, but you don't know where to start, I'd take a look at these too. Will didn't demo it, but there's like a very cheeky bug in the dashboard that we left there in case somebody wants to fix it. And it's very good for somebody who's a newbie to all of this kind of stuff, as well as if you like the JavaScript, TypeScript kind of world. So any questions about dashboard?
And just a quick plug, Ryan. If you scroll up, you can actually create an issue here, and we have all the issue templates that you can use to if you have a feature request for the dashboard. We'd love hearing ideas from the community, and would love to hear ideas for what you want to add to the dashboard as well if you have feature requests. Awesome. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think Ryan, you've successfully left everybody speechless, and they can't wait. Fantastic. All right. Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing everybody engage with the dashboard, and hopefully we have some folks try it out and give us some good feedback. And very excited to see how that evolves over time. All right, so that's our last demo, and then before we close up here, I wanted to remind everybody of call to action for you to participate as a part of the community by joining the call. You're participating, and we love that. If you would like to contribute to Radius, good place to start is to go look for the Good First Issues tag within the repo, and within the main Radius repo, and now the dashboard repo too. We have Good First Issues tagged for folks who want to contribute for the first time, and also contributing to new recipes. So our recipes repo is meant to house a bunch of community-driven recipes. So if there's anything that you think might be useful that you've built for yourself that might be useful for other folks in the community as a recipe, please go into and contribute to our recipes repo, because I think that will become very powerful for the community to share best practices and recipes with each other. All right, so that being said, thank you very much. And here's additional actions you can take to engage with the Radius project. And we'll be back soon with our next community call date, where we'll update on the next release that's upcoming, and hopefully have some really great demos there then as well. And please do let us know what you think. Communicate with us through the Discord channel, through issues in the repo, create feature requests. All feedback is welcome, and we really want to continue growing and enhancing the Radius project.